Hello, and welcome to the Asylum. I'm your host, Don, and with me, as always, is my co host, Jeremiah. And today is my daughter's birthday, so I'm a little out of it. But today, we're going to talk about Flight World War II, which I think
The
is.
first time that we've done a World War II movie by the Asylum, because they've done a lot. And I just looked at the cover and it says based on true events.
I
No.
mean, I mean, World War II did happen. So
But not this version of World War II.
that is true. I think that this is a mockbuster of one of the 9/11 films. Is that right? Because there was what is it, Flight 42 or whatever, which was the one about the
United 93?
maybe. I thought there was one called Flight something. That was about one of the 9/11 flights.
Yeah, United 93, and it was basically actual footage, not actual, but like they got the
The
same type
photo.
of plane. They got people that looked exactly like every passenger. They had the family members tell them what they were wearing. They didn't have actual like full on. Well, they had actors, but they had them improvise what they were doing, and they basically reenacted what happened, what we knew what happened with the flight that crashed in Pennsylvania up to the point of crashing. Yeah, no, this is not that. I don't think this is a mockbuster.
Really? This is a original? Huh. Mind blown. Anyway, the basic synopsis for this film
Yeah,
is that this plane is flying and it goes through a weather anomaly. And when it comes out the other side of said weather anomaly, it is in the sky over England in 1940.
over France.
Oh, France? I thought it was England.
They were definitely in France, the coast of France, because they were thought the Germans were doing the bombing of the coast just before they got to Paris, and they hadn't gotten to Paris yet. They're definitely over France. And
I,
I would say this review-wise, though, this movie is it's not well reviewed, but it is significantly higher than about 90% of the Asylum.
That is true. So it stars the guy that was the leader of the Ten Rings in Iron Man.
Yep,
Tahir?
Farhan Tahir. He's
Yeah,
also in Elysium. He's the president in Elysium. He's in
he's
Star Trek. He's
he's
in
a
Escape Plan.
he's a pretty legit actor, and he definitely brought it to this film. Unlike some of the other times that Asylum brings in a real actor, this guy actually was trying.
We'll
Uh,
actually have a decent number of real actors. Like Robbie Kay's in this one. He plays a British soldier. He was in Pirates of the Caribbean. He was Peter Pan in Once Upon a Time. He was in
Nigel,
Heroes Reborn.
uh,
Um,
the flight attendant girl who was
yes,
she
Cameron.
I know her specifically from Fighting with My Family, where
Akila Zoll.
yeah, she was the rival to the main character in Fighting with My Family. She did a great job. Like really, the acting in this movie, given the silliness of the concept, was really well done.
There's another one, Matthias Ponce, who was
The co-pilot.
he was in he's in Criminal Minds Beyond Borders, so one of the spin-offs of that one. Adam Blake's in this one, who is in NCIS Los Angeles. He's in South Park apparently.
Was
The
Adam
OA,
was Adam
Driven.
the one guy who kept grabbing the flight attendant?
No, I think that's David Campbell.
He looked familiar to me, but I don't know where I saw him before. But he definitely looked familiar. But
But
yeah,
basically, there's a lot of decent actors in this movie. And I'll just say right up the front, out the bat, acting in this movie was no issue at all.
yeah,
I thought they restrained it enough that everything worked,
yeah.
which is a big thing for the Asylum because I don't think they
How-
usually have any idea how to direct actors. Being that most of this movie is in one single location, one
Yep.
set, it's quite literally one of those what do they call it? It's a flight simulator, but it's the type of simulator where they train like attendants on, where they rock them back and forth. They had
Yeah.
them in that, and I think total there's like a wheel set. There's one
There's,
thing on the ground in a
there's
forest.
there's the plane. There's the camp where Nigel is.
It was the main cabin of the plane
Yeah. There's the plane, the main cabin, or the main cabin of the plane, the pilots, the cockpit, the camp where Nigel is,
and
the
the
room
wheel.
where Nigel is, And then there's one random scene that they filmed in a forest that they've used in like 30 other Asylum films. And I would be, and then
And
there's
it's
an,
the wheel rut, the where they have the landing gear.
yeah. And then there's another, like, they keep flashing to a scene where there's a German who's intercepting like their
Oh
communications.
yeah, he's like in a room somewhere.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that's the exact same room that Nigel's in. They just changed the decorations, but it's pretty
Changed
much,
and probably the camera angle too. Probably
yeah,
one wall is one way, one wall is the other way.
yeah, pretty much.
But
Um,
this
uh,
movie though, I have to laugh at the cover again because it says based on true events, Flight World War II, and then the tagline is the greatest battle that never happened.
yeah, real events never happen.
Um, so this is by a director who I don't think we've seen any of their stuff yet. Called Emile Edwin Smith, who has done special effects for a lot of stuff, but like the they've done this one, Age of Ice, Mega Shark versus Mecha Shark, and they've done Ice Sharks.
Hmm.
So we'll get to some more of their stuff, but this was a pretty decent go at it.
Yep.
This
So the
this
plot,
movie's not great. I'll say that. If you think about it too hard, it'll fall, but it is very watchable.
yeah, especially the twist at the end. The plot of this movie, right, as I already stated, right, they fly through this anomaly, and then as we were talking about, instead of like what I was expecting was that they were going to land in Europe and have to deal with being in World War II as a bunch of civilians,
Or to
and
take out Hitler.
but instead it's a flight, it's a drama inside of this plane. They did have a really small subplot that I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't explore because it was exactly what you would expect from an Asylum film. And I really hope that they make that at some point in the future. That subplot being that one of this guy who's kind of just like that guy who's always rude to flight attendants is like listening into conversations, and he puts together that they've gone into the past, and so he like picks up one of there's these
He
history
doesn't put it
professors.
together. He eavesdrops and then reads their book.
Yeah, so he steals these history professors' books because there's two history professors
We're
that's
going to NerdCon.
two. So he picks up their book and he's like, "Oh, we're in World War II. That means that we know exactly where Hitler's going to be at any given moment." And so he gets up, explains to the entire like cabin that they are now in 1940, which means they can kill Hitler. And then he tries to get them to join in with him on killing Hitler, which then a couple of people join in on the concept that then proceed to get wrecked by two military members that happen to be on board and the main flight attendant who starts beating them with a fire extinguisher, which is pretty legit. And then that subplot just kind of drops off, but I would 100% watch a movie about a flight of civilians that go back into World War II and try to kill Hitler. Those,
But I do think though that due to the budget that they had, restraining themselves like that was a very good idea.
yeah. But yeah. So this movie, I can say it's not the best Asylum's ever done, but I can say that it's probably up there as far as like more engaging films. Like it is a ridiculous concept, and like Jeremiah said, if you think about it too hard, you're just going to lose the thread. But if you are able to do the whole suspension of disbelief and just accept the movie for what it is, it's actually really good. It's definitely watchable. I would put it on our sliding scale of Asylum films. Um, Probably right around World War or War of the Worlds Annihilation, around that area. War of the Worlds
I'd say
Annihilation.
though it's their best drama
Oh, by far.
because the ones we put at the top are ridiculous movies like Zombies that
And
are supposed to be
Right.
ridiculous.
Yeah, this one
And
is like not ridiculous. This is an actual movie. Like it's an hour and a half flight drama that is like it's watchable by far. Like this is like it's not like an Academy Award winner, but it is definitely it's a solid film.
now
You
I'm gonna
find the special effects being Asylum level special effects.
now I am gonna put this okay. I'm gonna put some pluses and minuses. So pluses usually in these movies, we kind of rag on how they depict the military because they do things like we're just gonna like keep on firing small arms fire like crazy at a tentacle that's doing nothing, but we're just gonna keep on firing for hours. and perhaps shoot ourselves because we're shooting across ways that we shouldn't be shooting, or we're going to put on these hunting fatigues and we call them military. We're going to send a bunch of foot soldiers into fog with no other support at all, just walking in there and have them all die. Forget other branches exist. Things like this. Nuclear submarine stuff. uh there are two soldiers in this movie, modern soldiers, and I think they do well. I think I do see on trivia that there's an issue with where the flag is on their uniform, but if that's the only issue they have, which shoulder it's on, um,
Yeah,
that's not
so it's a myth that Hollywood has to mess up uniforms when they depict military on TV. That's not a real thing.
just
However,
police. They have to for police.
they tend to do it on purpose. Like it's
Yeah,
not hard to mimic a military uniform. If you see a dude in a military uniform once and you take a photo, it's not hard to mimic that. But they tend to do it on purpose as like a respect thing. It's like Jeremiah said, it's the police that they can't mimic on TV.
yeah. But the soldiers in this one, they do it because there's a bit where the guy says he wants to take over the plane and take out Hitler, and he goes to storm the cockpit, and those soldiers are like, "Yeah,
No,
you're not doing that." Like, but we want to take out Hitler. Sure, but you're not taking the cockpit. And he's like, "I wanted to get through you." Sure. And then he like beat the crap out of him. And then the flight attendant like takes him out with a fire extinguisher to the head, which I found because think of most Asylum movies, my brain was like, oh, they're going to take the cockpit and try to fly this into Berlin.
that's exactly what I was expecting. Was that they were just gonna
That's what Asylum would do.
they would nosedive the plane into the bunker that Hitler was in or something.
But
But no, they
they
did.
didn't. And like, there's no way any servicemen, active duty or past duty, post 9/11, are going to let anyone take a cockpit by force.
Yeah, no.
This wouldn't happen. So I appreciate that. Though here's where this movie will go kind of weird. So they get to World War II. It is 1940, June
Yep.
1940. Germany's not taken Paris yet, but they're going to. And there's a couple of things. So first of all, they said they slaughtered the Brits on the beach, so Dunkirk didn't happen. So they didn't escape. The German Luftwaffe already has jets. About I think they test fighted them in 1941. They didn't really make them into like 42. Hitler didn't like jets. He wanted bombers, not jets, and so they didn't make a ton of them. But they have the jets already, and they keep on making this big deal that it's a that these isn't how it's supposed to happen. So they went into a different continuity.
Yeah.
There is land to air missiles and air to air missiles. They did exist in World War II, but they didn't really get used until like 43, 44.
Yep. I caught that. I'm not a huge history buff, and I was like, that's not right.
Um, and so they treat this whole timeline as if it's like an alternate history thing, because all the historians like, that's not how this happened.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, they found out that the soldier who they were talking to on this plane the whole time, who they end up throwing their GPS to, modern GPS, attached to a USB
And a tablet?
charger, to him, is one of the guys on the planes, and he talked about like how he saved the world, but that makes no sense because I almost thought at the end after that happened that they were going to land. They land in Berlin because their plane has a giant hole in the side because a missile went through
And when
in
they went
one
through,
seat that no one else remembered any time else in the plane. No, and there was no reaction to it, so screw that cabin.
yeah,
And they land in Berlin, and the guy says, "How I love Berlin." I thought they were going to show up there and be like End of the Planet of the Apes, and they'd be Nazis everywhere.
yeah. Especially because like they had to land in Berlin because they were over Germany when they went back through the time warp, and they had just enough fuel to get them back through the time warp, which perfect, I guess. Whatever.
But yeah, I thought it would be like that, but they didn't do it.
Which again, kudos.
But they did try to have their cake and eat it too. They tried both, and you can't have an alternate history, but no, it's the real history when that is not the real history. Don't do that. But
Right.
just don't. They should not have. Like, I guessed who that guy was early. I don't know how. I don't remember how I remember watching. I'm like, oh, that guy's probably. But
It's the
I thought
dude.
he was actually. I thought he was going to be him, and he would come up to the cockpit and tell him what to do to help him out. Not that he'd stay in the back writing his book the whole time. But that kind of irked me. Very Quantum Leap. This movie, very Quantum Leap. But all the acting was good enough that it made it actually work. I also like how they kept on finding ways to make it so the 747 would be at any sort of altitude to interact with the Luftwaffe. We fly a bit higher now,
A lot higher.
and that thing had good armor apparently.
Yeah, they riddled it with bullets, and it had no negative effect whatsoever. Which I guess maybe World War II era guns didn't have the same oomph they have now. I don't know. Ah,
Mm, yeah.
I didn't feel like googling that because I didn't want the FBI to ask me any questions. So
But the movie itself is fine. It's restrained to the point. I'm not going to show a lot of pictures because there's only like 6 of them, and it won't really do any good. But I do find it interesting how, both this plane has so many holes at the end, and that no one is feeling any pressure. Like I understand the one in the cockpit. There's one in the cockpit because one of the co-pilots gets shot through it, and they fill that one with a cloth. That one makes sense. It's a little hole, but there's an entire giant hole that rips out a whole seat of the plane that they never noticed since.
and the one that blew up the windows in the cabin were blown, and it like they didn't have to put on air masks to deal with the pressure or anything. It's just like, huh.
Yeah. But like, where was the one that got blown out? Like, was that the economy class cabin? They're all dead.
That's
I
what.
don't know.
That's why you shouldn't flight economy.
The cover of this though, that there's
Show it.
okay.
Show
Let me
the
show you
screen.
because this was not over London. They make it a big deal that they're over France, and then they're heading towards, was it Switzerland,
I think.
and so on. What is the American flag doing there? Quite literally, America had nothing to do other than they left
Yeah.
Dulles.
Yeah.
There's London. That has nothing to do with this movie beyond they're flying to London.
Yep.
Most of the planes they go against are not fighters. They are German jets.
Yep.
These are Messerschmitts. Kind of weird that I know that.
It's
These are
kind
Messerschmitts.
of it.
There's a jet right there. They do get shot down a lot, but usually it's because like this thing somehow this plane's wings stay on when they're doing maneuvers that the plane is not designed to do. And these jets are hitting each other. But we do know we do make planes a bit stronger now than they did in World War II.
True.
But mm,
Mm,
this other cover is actually this other cover I think is more accurate.
but that says Flight 1942.
Yeah, I think that's what the other name of the movie is. All these movies have multiple names.
Fair enough.
Back in time, into battle. That's a much better tagline than the greatest battle you've never heard that never happened.
No,
Yep,
there's
there's
not
Peter Pan.
great
You
character.
recognize him from Once Upon a Time.
I love Nigel. Oh, there's your
There's
flight
Cameron.
and other flight attendant, brunette flight attendant who did like two things and then just vanished for the whole rest of the movie. But she did like two things.
I
She
did
said,
notice though that as a flight attendant, mostly because I've watched the show The Flight Attendant, these shirts would be ironed
"Yeah, that's true."
at
Valid.
least early in the flight, even though you can see the guy's bloody nose as he got hit in the face with a fire extinguisher.
Sure.
There's the two historian nerds.
Yep. And then Cameron.
Um, how they convinced them to let him in the cabin, which in
Question.
flight it wouldn't happen. I think recall right, that thing's not supposed to open, though. I do. I guess this was a kind of a special circumstances, and the
Uh,
pilot himself can in fact open that if he wanted to.
yeah. I believe that they used a code to open it at one point, and I'm fairly certain it was 8675309. Pretty sure. Which I appreciate
Um,
the reference.
yeah, yeah, but there's
Yeah.
Far Into Here. He was really good, solid. He does a monologue later where it's like, "I'm gonna go talk to the crazy people out there." You're like, dude, you kept your voice very calm. It was very calming to me.
I know, right? Yeah. Yeah. So I honestly, without reservation, would recommend this movie. I think this was worth my time. It would be worth your time if you like kind of like uh, a drama in a flight. Like It's a good movie. I would definitely recommend it.
And surprisingly, so I put it on, dreading what they were going to do because we've seen what they do with everything else. I thought this would be like Moby Dick and be like, really? That you're going to do what? You're going to nuke an island?
Yeah,
Uh,
right. With
but
no,
it gives me hope for their other World War II movies because there's a lot of them.
yeah, there are.
I just hope it's not false hope that's going to be like, oh yeah, every other one is made by the maker of Battle Star Wars. And I
Yeah.
will still crap on until there's a worse movie done by the Asylum.
I don't know that it's possible. Like, unless Asylum like partners up with Wild Eye, I don't think it's possible to make a movie worse than Battle Star Wars.
Wild Eye, who wants to give me no, I'm not previewing your crap.
Before we spin this wheel, have we gotten any knowledge or any data on Armageddon, the Asylum Armageddon movie?
That comes out this month, but until we've seen more of their movies, I don't think that'd be a movie we should watch.
That's fair.
Until we've seen Transmorphers and stuff and understand all the references, what's the point of watching it?
And Atlantic Rim.
So, okay, let's click this sucker. At
Wheel of
least.
Asylum, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the movie that we will burn.
Isn't
Megalodon.
this the one that we got last time that we couldn't find? It wasn't available?
I'm not sure. Let me look real quick because I feel like
Pretty sure it was this one.
I thought I'd seen Megalodon on Tubi. Well, let me look.
No, this was the I could have sworn this is the one we pulled last time that we couldn't watch because it wasn't available.
I wouldn't be surprised. When
And
I
if
was
so, what are the chances that it rolled the same movie twice?
Fate just really wants us to see this movie.
Oh, it says count plus one.
Oh, you're right. It's on Hoopla and Sci-Fi Subs.
Let's
Really?
roll again. We'll keep you on the list still, Megalodon, because I'm pretty sure you will pop up somewhere.
If it spins this one again, I'm gonna be like, what?
Really wants us to see Megalodon.
We gotta get Sci-Fi Subs. Death Valley: The Revenge of Bloody Bill.
Look this one up. This sounds like the type of one that we're not finding anywhere that they're like, it doesn't exist. It
Like
never
100,
has existed.
like 100 feet.
A legit movie. Dun 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 dun
The
dun
Revenge
dun dun dun.
of Bloody Bill. When a group of college kids stumble upon a small abandoned town of Sunset Valley, they must fight a band of zombies led by a Confederate soldier seeking retribution for his grisly execution.
And you can watch it where?
Tubi and Pluto.